Please like the video and share it so that it reaches many more people and you get sawaba, or rewards from Allah. This could be a sawabe jariya or continuous reward for you long after you are gone.
Dress, Volume 7, Book 72, number 674852. Volume 7, Book 72, number 674. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's apostle said, Allah will not look at the person who drags his garment behind him out of conceit. Volume 7, Book 72, number 675. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. The Prophet said, Allah will not look on the day of resurrection at the person who drags his garment behind him out of conceit. On that Abu Bakr said, O Allah's apostle, one side of my izzah hangs low if I do not take care of it. The Prophet said, you are not one of those who do that out of conceit. Volume 7, Book 72, number 676. Narrated by Abu Bakr. The solar eclipse occurred while we were sitting with the Prophet. He got up dragging his garment on the ground hurriedly till he reached the mosque. The people turned to the mosque, and he offered a 2-rak'at prayer. Whereupon the eclipse was over, and he traced us and said, the sun and the moon are 2 signs among the signs of Allah. So if you see a thing like this, eclipse, then offer the prayer and invoke Allah till he remove that state. Volume 7, Book 72, number 677. Narrated by Abu Juhayfa. I saw Bilal bringing an anza, a small spear, and fixing it in the ground, and then he proclaimed the iqama of the prayer, and I saw Allah's apostle coming out, wearing a cloak with its sleeves rolled up. He then offered a 2-rak'at prayer while facing the anza, and I saw the people and animals passing in front of him beyond the anza. Volume 7, Book 72, number 678. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, the part of an izzah which hangs below the ankles is in the fire. Volume 7, Book 72, number 679. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle, Allah will not look, on the day of resurrection, at a person who drags his izzah behind him out of pride and arrogance. Volume 7, Book 72, number 680. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet, or Abul Qasim, said, while a man was walking, clad in a 2-piece garment and proud of himself with his hair well combed, suddenly Allah made him sink into the earth, and he will go on sinking into it till the day of resurrection. Volume 7, Book 72, number 681. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's apostle said, while a man was dragging his izzah on the ground behind him, suddenly Allah made him sink into the earth, and he will go on sinking into it till the day of resurrection. Volume 7, Book 72, number 682. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. That he heard the Prophet narrating as above, number 680. Volume 7, Book 72, number 683. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's apostle said, whoever drags his clothes on the ground out of pride and arrogance, Allah will not look at him on the day of resurrection. Volume 7, Book 72, number 684. Narrated by Aisha. The wife of the Prophet, the wife of Rifa al-Qarazi, came to Allah's apostle while I was sitting, and Abu Bakr was also there. She said, O Allah's apostle, I was the wife of Rifa and he divorced me irrevocably. Then I married Abdurrahman bin Azed Zubair who, by Allah, O Allah's apostle, has only something like a fringe of a garment, showing the fringe of her veil. Khalid bin Sa'id, who was standing at the door, for he had not been admitted, heard her statement and said, O Abu Bakr, why do you not stop this lady from saying such things openly before Allah's apostle? No, by Allah, Allah's apostle did nothing but smiled. Then he said to the lady, perhaps you want to return to Rifa. That is impossible unless Abdurrahman consummates his marriage with you. That became the tradition after him. Volume 7, Book 72, number 685. Narrated by Ali. The Prophet asked for his reader, put it on and set out walking. Zayd bin Haritha and I followed him till he reached the house where Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib was present and asked for permission to enter, and they gave us permission. Volume 7, Book 72, number 686. Narrated by Ibn Umar. A man asked, O Allah's apostle, what kind of clothes should a murim wear? The Prophet said, a murim should not wear a shirt, trousers, a hooded cloak, or cuffs, leather socks covering the ankles, unless he cannot get sandals, in which case he should cut the part of the cuff that covers the ankles. Volume 7, Book 72, number 687. Narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet came to visit Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul after he had been put in his grave. The Prophet ordered that Abdullah be taken out. He was taken out and was placed on the knees of the Prophet, who blew his blessed breath on him and dressed the body with his own shirt. And Allah knows better. Volume 7, Book 72, number 688. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. When Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul died, his son came to Allah's apostle and said, O Allah's apostle, give me your shirt so that I may shroud my father's body in it. And please offer a funeral prayer for him and invoke Allah for his forgiveness. The Prophet gave him his shirt and said to him, inform us when you finish, and the funeral procession is ready, call us. When he had finished he told the Prophet, and the Prophet proceeded to order his funeral prayers, but Umar stopped him and said, didn't Allah forbid you to offer the funeral prayer for the hypocrites when he said, whether you, O Muhammad, ask forgiveness for them or ask not forgiveness for them, and even if you ask forgiveness for them 70 times, Allah will not forgive them. 9.80. Then there was revealed, and never, O Muhammad, pray for any of them that dies, nor stand at his grave. 9.34. Thenceforth the Prophet did not offer funeral prayers for the hypocrites. Volume 7, Book 72, number 689. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle has set forth an example for a miser and a charitable person by comparing them to two men wearing two iron cloaks and their hands are raised to their breasts and necks. Whenever the charitable man tries to give a charitable gift, his iron cloak expands till it becomes so wide that it will cover his fingertips and obliterate his tracks, and whenever the miser wants to give a charitable gift, his cloak becomes very tight over him and every ring gets stuck to its place. Abu Hurairah added, I saw Allah's apostle putting his finger in the chest pocket of his shirt like that. If you but saw him trying to widen the opening of his shirt, but it did not widen. Volume 7, Book 72, number 690. Narrated by Al-Mughira bin Shu'bah. The Prophet went to answer the call of nature, and when he returned, I met him with water and he performed the ablution while he was wearing a sham cloak. He rinsed his mouth, put the water in his nose and blew it out, washed his face and tried to take his hands out of his sleeves, but they were too narrow. So he took out his hands from under his chest and washed them and then passed his wet hands over his head and cuffs, leather socks.
أشهد أن